This episode is brought to you by SafeJet, the operators of the anti-dump mechanism that you see all other DeFi projects copying. SafeJet is the safest coin in the crypto game, protecting you from your whales and chart manipulators. That way your investment is still there in the morning. Free travel, cash giveaways, an experienced and doxed team also lets you lock, fly, and land with SafeJet. For more information, visit safejet.io, link in the description below.
This my two Satoshis, who need 2 cents when they can get double from stacking Toshis, yeah.
Yo, what's up? This is Dr. Little John from a G Perspective. Want to give a shout out to CBTV fam and everybody watching. I know it's been a minute, but I've been working on getting my channel up and running. It is now up and live. Go check it out, subscribe, hit the likes. It's from a G Perspective. From a G Perspective. Look forward to seeing you there. Go ahead and let me know that you've come from the CBTV side in the comments. I'm gonna keep reminding you, this is the time during a down market, during a bear market, whether it's a recession, this is the time to be building. And building consists of consuming knowledge. Building consists of getting involved. Building consists of creating. But first and foremost, get the knowledge. This is the time to be learning this space, learning the technology, learning about Bitcoin, learning why. You can't sprinkle if you don't truly understand why. We are still early. If you're watching this now, you are ahead of the curve. You can be the person introducing this technology to your sphere of influence. Anyway, I wanna get right into something that I've noticed there's been no attention paid to, and that's this Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland working paper series, and it's on the Lightning Network. And this is June 2022, so this is very recent. I often talk about the fact that notice the news or the stories that we predominantly get. And I always have to, whether they're true, factual or not, I always have to ask myself, why are you giving me this information as opposed to other information that may be out there? And I always have to come back to mind is that the media has never had the little man, the normal man, the average Joe's heart in hand. They've never once made us privy to information at the same time that those who are more privileged. So I'm always just very leery about that. And it's just funny that we're not getting a lot of information concerning what's going on top of Bitcoin. You know, we're getting a lot of hype, and part of a lot of the hype has led up to many of the contagions that are occurring within the cryptocurrency sphere at the moment. I'm one who proposes freedom, so to me, the cryptocurrency space and the technology is the ability for individuals to freely exercise ideals and concepts that they have. I don't believe anybody has the right to deny someone the opportunity to work out plans or ideals or concepts or dreams that they may have. I think the danger is that because this is such a free and open ecosystem, that a lot of its participants don't do the research or are too influenced by media, too influenced by the hype factor, too influenced by their favorite YouTuber, TikToker, Twitter, or whatever it may be, celebrity. Once again, majority of the cryptocurrency projects will fail. So in some essence, if I know that they'll fail, then I do my readers a disservice if I promote projects that I really and truly have no idea whether they will succeed or fail or not, especially if I'm not a part of the back end, or I'm not a part of the founders, or I'm not founding or directing or privy to what's actually going on. One thing we do know is that Bitcoin has proven itself in a host of adversities. We're in a significant bear market, and I call it a recession. We've got experts that are going to wait until after the recession is over, or until it's already peaked and it's beginning to go up before they declare it as such. But whether it is or isn't, we're in trying economic times. And so Bitcoin has fared very well in comparison. You know, once again, I'll reiterate, we don't have a known founder, no CFO, no CTO, no COO, no marketing department. There's no office buildings. There's no bank accounts. It's never paid for an ad or an article or a spokesperson, but yet it reached $1 trillion valuation. That's never happened before in a 12-year period. An asset or a protocol or an app or a company or a product reaching 100 million users at a valuation of $1 trillion. And it did that without any of those things that I named off. You have corporations and companies that have done it in 20 years and 40 years, and a significant portion of their budgets go to marketing. Once again, this is a phenom. So in saying that, we've got the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland doing a working paper series on the Lightning Network. And that's one of the problems or one of the hurdles that Bitcoin has truly compete as a primary or even a secondary source of payments on a street level. The problem with most people's understanding of that is that they don't place an appropriate timeline. They think that all the things that Bitcoin is designed to do, which it can already do, we're just not up to speed. There's not enough people who own Bitcoin at the present to stabilize the price. So therefore, even if it was capable of being an everyday payment system, it's not spread out wide enough amongst a world population. It's not widely dispersed amongst either state or individuals across the globe to stabilize the price. So until that happens, which takes time, we're going to have the volatility, but the volatility is a friend for those who are in early. So one of the problems or one of the challenges that Bitcoin does face is congestion on the network. There has been work being done to create layers on top of this secure layer, which would be the smartest thing, because what it does is it allows the base layer, which is secure, to not be tampered with, to not have to go through the faults that will occur when we begin to implement financial channels amongst individuals, amongst groups, amongst countries, amongst corporations, amongst people who think the same way without third-party intervention, without a third party saying whether you can or cannot interact with these people wherever they may be in the world. And so it's good to see that the Federal Reserve of Cleveland is looking into the alternatives, or at least some of the alternatives, to fix the congestion by creating layers on top of Bitcoin. And once again, by creating those layers on top, that allow you to do a whole host of things. And if those things don't work out, the base layer is fine. And the base layer should be where the predominance of your digital wealth is being stored. I'm not saying that all of your wealth, but when you're talking about storing a significant portion of your wealth digitally, you want it in the most securest network. And then once again, for those who have been watching me long enough, my analogy of sprinkling upon other projects that you may feel have some relevance, projects that have viability. So on the cover page of this Federal Reserve Bank paper series, one of the first things it says is, working papers of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland are primarily materials circulated to stimulate discussion and critical comments on research in progress. They may not have subject to the formal editorial review accorded official Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland publications. So, they're saying these aren't sanctioned and official and that they haven't been edited yet. But one thing I want to note here is critical in their phrasing is discussions and critical comments on research in progress. So that lets us know this is actual viable research that is in progress in the Federal Reserve of Cleveland. Page 2, where the heading is Lightning Network Turning Bitcoin into Money. So they're looking at Bitcoin being, the viability of Bitcoin being money. And it states, the Lightning Network, LN, is the means of netting Bitcoin payments outside of the blockchain. We find a significant association between LN adoption and reduced blockchain congestion, suggesting that the LN has helped improve the efficiency of Bitcoin as a means of payment. This improvement cannot be explained by other factors such as changes in demand or the adoption of SegWit. We find mixed evidence whether increased centralization in the Lightning Network has improved its efficiency. Our findings have implications for future of cryptocurrencies as means of payment and their environmental footprint. So basically here, they're saying that they've noticed an improvement in the efficiency of Bitcoin because of Lightning Network. And they can pretty much say that they don't find any other reason for that improvement, even though there are things that have been done concerning Bitcoin that of course help make Bitcoin better. SegWit being one of those. They also noted that they didn't find any greater increased efficiency in the centralization of the Lightning networks. That's also an argument that's often come up, is that the Lightning nodes or the Lightning channels are centralized. And so what basically they're saying here is that there's really no incentive for centralizing Lightning nodes or going in that route as opposed to decentralized Lightning channels per se. Of course, there'll be a mix of both. I don't see a problem with layers above Bitcoin maybe having some centralization as long as the base layer is decentralized. Understand that the layers above, the second layers above Bitcoin won't always be permanent. Some of those channels will be temporary. Some of those channels may be related to a certain business aspect or certain financial transactions that are going on at that moment. And then there'll be other Lightning channels that are built on top of Bitcoin that have a longer sustaining viability. You know, maybe charities, you know, they'll want to maintain a channel for longer period of times, but maybe a financial transaction that's dealing with some goods exchanging hands may only need a certain time frame. Maybe a community has an objective they'd like to have accomplished. And so creating a financial channel that will allow their members or those who are willing to participate in whatever that objective is, the ability to do so. I also noted that the last thing, our findings have implications for the future of cryptocurrencies as a means of payment and their environmental footprint. So it also is addressing the energy efficiency of Lightning networks. So go here to the first page under the introduction in the second paragraph. I want to read. One such solution is the Lightning Network, which allows Bitcoin users to make payments outside the blockchain. Rather than inscribe every individual payment onto the blockchain, two individuals can open an LNN channel and make bilateral payments. Once they have completed their payments, they can close the channel and settle the net amount. In principle, doing this requires only two transactions on the blockchain, one to open the channel and another to close it, regardless of the amount settled or the number of underlying payments. In this way, adoption of the LN can reduce demand for blockchain space and ease congestion. So basically, to simplify this, it's like creating a side room where those who are willing to participate in what's going on in that side room will put in an amount of Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin will intermingle amongst those people in that room doing whatever deals or business they need to have done. And then at designated times, whether it's to close the channel completely or to settle on the blockchain periodically based on some time frame, it could be once a day, weekly, monthly, it could be, you know, hourly, you know, whatever that group needs the time frame to be. And then so what will happen is at that moment, all of the transactions will then be made into one transaction and placed on the blockchain as a record. And so what that does is that allows for basically all of those transactions to be batched together, thus saving money on the transaction fees. It also allows, in essence, a sense of privacy, because the only thing that can be seen is the opening of the channel and the closing of the channel. But what goes on inside of the channel is only privy to those who are involved in that said activity. There's a whole host of applications that this can be used for. You know, communities, once again, communities can create channels of financial viability that they can offer to their community. The good thing about it is that it's all transparent. The next paragraph goes on to say, we find that adoption of the Lightning Network has led to a reduction in Bitcoin blockchain congestion and lower mining fees. The results are significant, both statistically and economically, and cannot be explained by changes in demand for the blockchain space, nor by other technological developments. We find limited evidence that greater centralization of the network is associated with lower fees. Our results suggest that the Lightning Network can help Bitcoin achieve greater scalability, allowing it to operate better as a payment system. Basically, it's reiterated some of the things that we just spoke about previously. But I mean, when I look at this and I read this, I mean, they have a very good understanding of what direction we are really going. The next paragraph goes on to say, the Lightning Network continues to grow, doubling in size over 2021. There has been institutional adoption too. For example, Twitter allows tipping using the LN amongst other payment methods. El Salvador enables Bitcoin payments among its citizens using the Chivo wallet. And you can say what you will, and there's pros and cons to what's going on in El Salvador. Hey man, I can't do nothing but give the president of El Salvador a thumbs up for making an attempt, probably the most viable attempt at moving away from having third-party control your economies. You know, they've got to take drastic measures, and they couldn't have chosen a better platform to secure that alternative on. Once again, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, we're talking about competing against currency systems that have been in place for at least 100 years. Currency systems that have backings by governments, backings by armies and arms, backed by just the world economy, petrol oil in and of itself. People act like these are feats that should occur within very short periods of time. This takes time. And considering where Bitcoin has come from, it's right on pace. We're still early. The development of the Lightning Network may have consequences for welfare. First, as Bitcoin becomes a more efficient payment system, users are better off. Their transactions settle more quickly and more cheaply. Zimmerman, 2020. Second, since fewer transactions need to be recorded on the blockchain, less memory and energy are needed to run Bitcoin nodes. This savings lowers the cost of maintaining the blockchain, allowing more nodes to participate, making the system more secure against double spending attacks. Buddish, 2018. Third, by reducing fees, the LN reduces the incentive for Bitcoin miners to use large amounts of computing power, meaning less energy use and positive consequences for the environment. Fourth, less blockchain congestion may mean lower barriers to arbitrage across cryptocurrency exchanges, thereby improving market liquidity. But I want to go back to the first aspect, a payment system. In order for Bitcoin to one day become that day-to-day payment system, it's going to need to be more efficient. And so the Lightning Network is going to allow for some of that efficiency. Of course, it's not a end all to be all. This evolution of our money system is going to be ongoing. The whole thing is we need a base layer that we know for sure is neutral and secure. The second aspect is since fewer transactions are needed to be recorded on the blockchain, less memory and energy are needed to run Bitcoin nodes. So the more Bitcoin nodes we have, the more records of transactions, the more difficult it becomes to do what we call double spends, to fool the network, to fool the record. Because in order to do so, you'd have to replace 51% of the record within 51% of the nodes out there in the world simultaneously. And you'd have to do that every 10 minutes. So that means you'd have to go back and do the math for every single block all the way up to the Genesis block. And then create that false record or replace the record inside 51% of the nodes across the world with that false record. And then you'd have to update that false record every 10 minutes. So for allowing for the blockchain to use less memory will allow for more nodes to hold the full and entire record of the Bitcoin blockchain. The third aspect is it's going to reduce the need for miners to use large amounts of computing power. In essence, that will allow their miners to be more efficient. More efficient miners last longer. That should bring the cost of buying miners to a minimum. Also, once again, leading to a far more positive consequence for the environmental aspect of Bitcoin mining. And the last one is the congestion and how it affects arbitrage opportunities in cryptocurrency exchanges. So because of that latency, there allows for arbitrage activities or arbitrage opportunities between different exchanges across the world. The more efficient the Bitcoin network becomes, the less arbitrage will occur. So the next aspect on page 2, while this paper focuses on Bitcoin, the same technologies can allow other cryptocurrencies to be widely used, secure and decentralized. For example, the Raiden network is a similar netting solution for Ethereum. Other solutions to the scalability problem have been proposed, including sharding, the batching at exchange level. If the scalability problem can be successfully addressed, it may be possible for currency based on a permissionless blockchain to attain wide acceptance. So they're basically saying that the possibility of the scaling issues being reduced are very high. And if so, the possibility for a permissionless blockchain being widely accepted as a payment rail is even higher, is even more viable, is even more probable. They go on to describe the Lightning Network. This is in page 3. The Lightning Network was first introduced by Poon and Dryja in 2016 and began to attract widespread uses in January 2008. The LN as a secondary transaction layer that operates outside the blockchain. Two users open an LN channel by contributing Bitcoin to a smart contract. They can then transfer these coins between themselves without creating traffic on the blockchain. Once the channel is closed, only the net amount needs to be settled on-chain as a single payment. This netting reduces the required number of on-chain transactions to just two. One to introduce the smart contract that opens an LN channel, and the second to close it. In this way, the system can handle much larger numbers of payments. In payment system terms, the Lightning Network can be thought of as a net settlement system appended to Bitcoin's gross settlement system. So hear that again. In payment system terms, the Lightning Network can be thought of as a net settlement system appended to Bitcoin's gross settlement system. The Lightning Network protocol itself relies on segregated witness, which is a change to the Bitcoin transaction format activated on August 23rd, 2013. SegWit improves the efficiency of blockchain storage so that a single Bitcoin block can potentially store up to 4 times as many transactions as before. And once again, it goes back to, in technology, it's often an approach to move very fast and to break as many things as possible so as to be able to fix them. And that's fine. But in this case, that would be detrimental to us storing a bulk of our digital value, our digital wealth, if it was on a system that broke often, because those breaks lead to catastrophic losses. So we need to have a base layer that is secure. It doesn't need to be the most complex, the fastest, the shiniest. It needs to be the most trustworthy. It needs to be the most neutral. We can get crazy on layers on top of it with a little sprinkle. Something that I noticed here that they pointed out, and I'll read it. Only a couple of papers in the economics and finance literature focus on the Lightning Network. Guasoni, Huberman, and Schickelman, 2021, build a strategic model in which Bitcoin users choose whether to open LN channels and examine the characteristics of networks that emerge. Bertuzzi, 2022, studies a strategic model of network formation and shows that competition between nodes prevents the network from becoming highly centralized. More broadly, our paper relates to a literature examining the fee-based market for blockchain space. So we see here, there's very little economic papers that are being done, yet there is a lot of work that is actually being done on the Lightning Network and on that technology on top of Bitcoin base layer. So much so that, once again, the Cleveland Federal Reserve wrote a paper on it. But we see the few papers that are written, they deal with some of the very important and critical issues, being examining the characteristics of the networks that emerge from users using the Lightning Network. And that would be like studying the economies that will evolve or will come out of the use of Lightning Network. One is the competition between nodes prevents the network from becoming highly centralized. So basically saying, because the ability to create channels is open source, the competition to do it better is an incentive to minimize the centralization of Lightning networks as a whole. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that initially there's not going to be some centralization. And once again, I'm not opposed to layers above Bitcoin having some centralization. Maybe those members or those who are getting involved in that layer for whatever purpose may decide on a centralized aspect. They can always opt out of the channel. Right to the 13th page, and I want to read what they wrote before their conclusion. We can assess the economic significance of reducing Bitcoin congestion by posing the following counterfactual question. If during 2017 the LN had existed and had been the size it was at the end of our sample, by how much would Bitcoin congestion have been lowered? Our results suggest that the mempool count would have been 93% lower, mempool fees 96% lower, and the proportion of low fee transactions 197% higher. These numbers demonstrate that the LN can potentially have a substantial impact on blockchain congestion. So they're talking about a reduction in fees of 93%. So I want to end this with their conclusion. We show that the usage of Lightning Network is associated with reduced mempool congestion in Bitcoin and with lower fees. Our findings suggest that the off-chain netting Benefits of the Lightning Network can help Bitcoin to scale and function better as means of payment. Centralization of the Lightning Network does not appear to make it much more efficient, though it may increase the proportion of low-fee transactions. So it's just interesting that what's going on behind the scenes, especially when it comes to Federal Reserve. And it's interesting that none of this is being spoken about. I'm gonna send news stories your way, have you look in the direction that I want you to look, to prevent you from looking in other directions where things may contradict, or minimum, keep you blind. There are a lot of things that are going on with Bitcoin and Bitcoin protocol. It's just not super shiny. It's not the fancy, it's not the slay of the hand. There's grown folk business that is actually going on the Bitcoin blockchain, because we're trying to build the fairest and most neutral monetary system that mankind has ever had. Without that, all the other things that you dream of that's being proposed won't matter. They'll have switches and the ability to shut you off. I can't reiterate this more. Our monetary system, the place we store our digital wealth, because we're going digital, whether you and I like it or not, must be in a neutral format. It must not allow for third parties, for state or governments or corporations to prevent the individual from spending their stored physical energy. Dictating how you spend your stored energy, meaning you work. The value of a day's work is worth more than what you can consume in a day. So therefore there should be an offset. Where's that offset stored to be spent at a later date? And if anyone can control or tell you how you can spend that digital wealth, that output from your physical energy, then they're controlling the output. That's what slavery was about. Controlling the output, whether it was by violence or not. Controlling the cotton, controlling the molasses. Grown folks' business is going on behind the scenes. This is Dr. Littlejohn. Check out my channel from a G's perspective, not from a young G's perspective. I'm not young, I'm 55. It's from a G's perspective. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. Let me know you come from the CBTV fam. Anyway, much love. This is Dr. Littlejohn from a G perspective. Peace, I'm out.